BlizzCon recap show. What a weekend it was at BlizzCon. All the games, all the surprises, all the tournaments. We're going to talk about it for you all here tonight. Obviously, Overwatch, one of the big stories coming out of BlizzCon. I'm Callum Leslie here with Saira Mueller. Saira, Overwatch is looking super exciting.
It is looking very hype. I am so excited for Overwatch. I've played it a little bit. I haven't played that much, and I'm not that good at FPS, but I can't wait to get into it a bit more.
Did you get your beta key?
I did not get my beta key.
You should make a post on Reddit about that. I hear that's what those guys like to talk about.
That will be my plan right after this.
Well, we're going to go complain about that on Twitter. Also with us is Sam Lingle. Sam's obviously wearing his Overwatch jacket. He's hyped for Overwatch as well.
But I don't have to be hyped because I've been playing it, 40 plus hours over the past week
Sam,
or so.
Well, Sam, why don't you lead us off? Take us through Overwatch. A lot of people maybe haven't seen this game before. How's it doing right now?
I mean, it's doing well. Obviously, there's tons of hype about it. They announced that I think 7 million people were registered for the beta. Obviously, a very small amount of them have gotten in, so they aren't happy about that. But it's a good game. I mean, everyone who's touched it loves it. It plays very well. It's got good balance. It's got interesting characters. But there are some issues. And at BlizzCon, they kind of caused a little more controversy.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that, guys. The pricing model, of course. People thought this maybe was going to be a free-to-play game where you had to buy the heroes, but they've announced it's actually going to be a $40 release with 21 heroes available with the base package, and then it's going to be on PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I believe it's $60, right? That's a pretty big investment, Saira, for people to make in this game.
I mean, I understand that it is quite a lot of money to put into a game, but at the same time, I understand that Blizzard also needs to make money off this. And if they're going to make all of the heroes available from the very start, I can kind of see where that payment model comes in. Yeah,
well, I mean, if you look at how much you'd pay for individual heroes, right, and something like Heroes of the Storm, it's pretty good value. I wouldn't sniff at that. If I could get 21 heroes in Heroes of the Storm for $40, I wouldn't mind at all.
Exactly. Sam, what do you think?
Well, there's a couple interesting things about this. So, this was obviously the big question about the game going into BlizzCon. Everyone wanted to know what they would have to pay for it. So they thought, okay, we're going to answer it, and it's going to be great. But no one was happy about this, in part because it was a cost, but it's also because it only answered half the question. We still don't know if they're going to charge for heroes after this initial 21 batch. We don't know if it's going to be a pay for individual heroes model, similar to free to play, or if it's going to have like an expansion model where you might pay another $40 next year for the next pack,
yeah,
some kind of heroes pack or something.
You feel like people maybe would have complained less if they said something like, "Hey, it's $40, but that's all you ever pay for the game. All the new content will be free."
Right, or if they said $40 for all heroes now and future, you can buy skins later.
Sure,
something like that. I think a game like Smite does something similar with a god pack that they have.
Yeah.
So I think they could extend it to be that, but they really haven't decided. Like, one of the reasons why they didn't answer that question is they still haven't decided. At least that was my impression, talking to people from Blizzard at the event. So.
Yeah, I mean, the hype is pretty real for Overwatch, Sam. I mean, you're wearing your jacket right now. Saira, you do have yours as well. You don't have it today.
I'm not wearing it today, but I do have it.
We were saying this walking around. Obviously, the three of us were all at BlizzCon this year. And Sam, you and I were saying that the first night we were walking around and we saw so many Overwatch jackets. Probably more Overwatch jackets have been sold than people have got into the beta. I don't know if that's not hype for a new game, I don't know what is.
That's definitely true, just based off everyone at BlizzCon. I mean, everyone's still excited, but there are little things that have got people mad. And part of the reason why people are so mad, though, is just because they want this game, right? They've been looking forward to it, so it'll be interesting. I mean, the fact that it's not free to play is a little worrisome from an esports perspective. A lot of esports guys were angry about this, but it wasn't because they think it should be free to play. That's kind of like just a good business model, I guess, or like what is the new business model these days. It's more about the player base, right? If it's free to play, more people will have access to it, more people will play it. There'll be more spectators for esports events, which is very important for making a big esports scene. The other flip side is also the Asian scene, where free to play is much more important. I don't think Blizzard said if this model will apply to Asia as well, but that might be something they may need to consider if they want the game to be big, outside of just the West.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the new heroes as well, because they announced a bunch of new heroes officially that we'd seen teased before BlizzCon, some new stuff. Sam, you're actually in the game. The new heroes are out now. Is the Genji spam getting you down, and how do you feel with the new characters?
I'm actually surprised there wasn't more Genji spam. I mean, he's obviously this robotic ninja, which is kind of like this fantasy for a lot of players. He's kind of like a high damage character. You can make plays on him and get a lot of kills, which, you know, sometimes in a game like Overwatch, not all the characters can do that. So I think a lot of people like that. But the first day that the patch came out, where, you know, these guys were on the beta, he was played a ton. And since then, it's been a little more muted, because I think people are just enjoying the variety of things they can play. He's definitely a very powerful character. I think he's more powerful than I thought he might have been when I played him at BlizzCon in terms of what he can do. But he's something where you still need to play with your team, which is basically, you know, how every character in the game is.
Sorry, what do you think of the new characters? Any catching your eye?
I've only played D.Va, and she was a lot of fun. She was very, very hype. I'm excited for Genji. I haven't played him yet, but yeah, D.Va I'd say would be definitely my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, the mobility on D.Va's crazy, right? That ability, the slow cooldown on that, you think that's got to be something they might look at changing in the future, Sam?
I don't think they're going to change it because it's basically core to how she plays. I mean, the thing with her is that her damage is actually very low, like even from a tank perspective. So you have to get really close to damage with her because she basically has these twin shotguns. If you're at any range at all, it's barely hitting them. So you really need to like use that dash to get on top of people to actually kill them. So it makes her playstyle pretty fun because you're flying around and you have a lot of options in terms of what you can do. I think she's the first hero that really has like 360 degrees of motion. Like there's a lot of mobile characters. Like Genji's obviously extremely mobile, but a lot of his mobility is like climbing up walls in a straight line, right? Then you have the dash, but it's on a lot longer cooldown than her shift is. So she's definitely fun and interesting to play, but her real game changer is her projectile deflection ability. I forget what it's called, where basically in front of you it just absorbs like every projectile. So that like changes games completely because it can counter so many ultimate abilities in the game. Like if Pharah starts ulting, shooting rockets down on your team, she can just hit that button, it'll eat all of the rockets, stop all the damage, and it's, you know, on like a 12-second cooldown or something like that. So that's kind of like where D.Va really comes in terms of like her power to affect the game.
I mean, some people might not know this, Sam. Of course, you're our colleague at the Daily Dot, a fantastic writer, but you have a history in competitive video gaming in TF2, and you're kind of trying to carry that over to Overwatch, playing a lot, probably you know, at a very high level. So for noobs like myself and Saira who are looking to get into the beta, and maybe some of the people watching who don't have that kind of experience, what character should we try first, and how, you know, what's the core of the game for players like us?
I mean, there's a lot of options depending on like what you like to do and what you feel like your skill set is. So like someone like Genji obviously might not appeal to you if you're not a first-person shooter player. You need to be able to aim very well, to be able to hit his shurikens to do enough damage so you can like dash in and make kind of twitch plays. But there's a lot of characters where you don't need that. Like Mercy's the healer. She's actually, you could argue she's the most powerful character in the game right now because she's basically the only character that's used in 100% of every team composition at, you know, 6v6 organized play right now. So she actually got nerfed slightly the day after BlizzCon, but she still like holds that pedestal. And she basically requires almost no Twitch skill at all. She's more about positioning and making decisions about how to use your skills. So she has a heal and a damage amplification beam. You can use one at a time. So you need to know which one is, you know, better to use in what situation. And she has a res where she can resurrect the whole team. So you know, whether you're looking to, you know, get in there and kill people and, you know, make big plays, or whether you're looking to kind of support your team, have bigger focus on positioning, there's definitely all sorts of heroes for you, which I think is different than most first-person shooters.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, what heroes are you looking forward to playing the most when you finally get that beta access?
When I finally get beta, I think Mercy is actually one of the heroes that I want to play the most. I'm not normally a support sort of player, but Mercy looks like a lot of fun. Yeah,
it's definitely what I'm looking at as well. I generally play support and things like Heroes of the Storm, so I think I'll probably look at Mercy as well. Just spam Mercy all the time, but full team of Mercies. That's the thing that you can't get in Heroes of the Storm. You don't get full teams of one hero yet, but we'll come on to that. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
We'll come on to that in a little bit. But obviously that's...
Double Mercy might be viable.
Well, there you go, Double Mercy. But you heard it here first. Sam Lingle with the meta predictions for Overwatch. Well, that's about all they announced at BlizzCon, right, Sam? I mean, was there anything else you were looking for, or, you know, are you pretty happy?
I mean, there's plenty of other things you're looking for, because basically right now the game is essentially the heroes they have in the game, and that's about it. Like, there's no other structures on top of that. There's no, like, ranked play format. There's a spectator mode, but it's, like, a very early prototype. They admit that it's bad, and that's something they want to improve. There's lots of questions in terms of, like, how ranked play might work, or, you know, whether they're going to have other game modes, things like that. The current map set they have payload maps and attack-defend maps. They're all kind of an attack-defend format based off, you know, capping a bunch of points in a certain amount of time, but they don't have a stopwatch mode, so you might attack and then defend back-to-back on the same map, but you can't actually tell basically who is a winner, because usually both teams are going to cap the whole map. So it's kind of awkward. They have a lot of things that they really need to figure out. And at BlizzCon, they didn't really say anything about that or what they were thinking about most of those things in the game. They're just like, well, the community will help us decide what we're going to do. So they've got a lot of work to do, for the next 8 months or so before release. And they also made it sound like they're not going to release any more like new heroes during that time, which seems a little weird because that's kind of like a long period of time when you're not building hype with, one of the key pieces of content in your game. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. It's also possible the game is going to be released much earlier than, that stated June release date as well, which I think was kind of tentative as like a maximum date. So
a lot of that went over my head. Sorry, I don't know about you. Sam's on a whole nother level for me, man. I can't get on his level. I try my best.
I mean, for me, I think, not bringing out any more heroes between now and the release of the actual game could have more to do with the fact that it's a higher barrier of entry for new players. Having more and more heroes just build up without them even playing the game could make them potentially not want to play. Is that something that you think Blizzard is thinking of?
I don't think that's really in the equation. I mean, you can definitely make that argument, and it is a little valid, but, I don't think if they, added one more hero every couple of months, it'd really make a significant difference in that. I mean, in terms of the game's already kind of has a lot of things you need to learn to play, but it's kind of deceptive in a lot of ways because most of the characters are actually fairly simple, right? They only have, left click or right click and then 2 abilities and ultimate. They have less abilities than like a League of Legends or Heroes of the Storm character do, really. So, it's kind of easy to figure out like what one character does, and then it's harder to figure out how to fit it in to the rest of the game as a whole. So I think they do have a pretty good learning curve in terms of like some things are kind of simple to learn, and then they're hard to master, I guess. So a lot of new players will, obviously in this day and age, that's no different than any other MOBA-esque game, I guess, where there's like a large roster of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's Overwatch. Obviously, it's not a game that you and I are playing right now, but there were some other games, obviously, other games that are fully released now.
Yes.
Blizzard's ever-expanding roster of games.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going to go next, Saira?
Hearthstone. We've
Hearthstone.
got to talk about the new Hearthstone expansion.
Now we're more talking my skill
Yes.
level. We're coming down to my level. We're talking about Hearthstone. Obviously, it was pretty hyped. The League of Explorers is coming. I don't think anyone was surprised by that we got a new content announcement at BlizzCon. I think the big surprise was that it's coming tomorrow, 6 days after it was announced at BlizzCon. They're just kind of, they're birthing it and pushing it straight out the nest. It's 45 cards coming into the game over a 5-week period, in the same way as the Curse of Naxxramas and the Blackrock Mountain adventures come. Got a chance to play through one of the levels at BlizzCon. It was pretty fun. I don't know if you check that out, guys, but it was pretty good. The adventure itself is pretty fun, but what people really want to know is what are the cards that are going to make a difference. And I'm not sure how much these cards are actually going to impact the meta or even go to address the concerns that people have about the game right now. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been following the Hearthstone community right now. They've been in a pretty bad place.
Mm-hmm.
It's been not a great time. Some of the people like Hartrolden and Disguised Toast coming out and saying, they don't find the game fun anymore. Yeah. The game's too repetitive, and that's something they're going to address, I think, in the coming months. Talking to Blizzard developers at BlizzCon, they're kind of looking to release content and features kind of one after the other, but not release them together. Mm-hmm. So we might get some new features for the game in the next couple of months. I know you guys are more casual Hearthstone players than myself, but what would make you play the game a bit more, Saira?
I mean, I think I already play it pretty much as I'm going to. It's sort of in between games of heroes. I never play on my phone.
He's not committed. That's the problem.
That's one thing that I just don't do. Honestly, new expansions, I don't really mean much to me as a very casual player because I don't know all the cards already. So for me, like having all these new cards, I don't understand how it's going to affect my gameplay. Yeah. I
mean, Sam, what do you think about that? Because we're getting over 700 cards now in Hearthstone, right? It's a high barrier of entry, 6 different sets, 5 expansions beyond the core set. Do you think they're going to need to do something to address this?
I think they definitely will. I mean, we've obviously seen, Magic the Gathering is a huge competitive card game, and they have like way bigger card space, but they kind of section things off like that, where they have like blocks of 700. I'm not sure how many cards, where that's like the competitive cycle, and then they have to make a new one because you can't just keep adding cards. It just kind of dilutes things. It makes things crazy. So I think that they're definitely going to have to address that in the very near future. I'm not sure what plans they have to do that, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think we're going to get that information from them in the coming months. But obviously, the Hearthstone World Championships as well took place. And actually, before we get to talk about that, I got a chance to speak to Brian Kibler, who was one of the commentators for the World Championship final. Check it out.
We've already had some incredible games today, and I'm really looking forward to this match.
Callum Leslie with the Daily Dot here with Brian Kibler, one of the casters from the Hearthstone World Championship finals. Brian, how have you found the event?
It's been a blast. It's really cool to be part of, an event of this sort of epic of scale, not only in terms of the tournament itself, but the production, the crowd, everything's been great.
And you just only started casting kind of this past year, and you've ascended to become one of, the top casters in Hearthstone. You're going to be casting the final. What's that journey been like for you?
Well, I actually only first started casting Hearthstone. I've been streaming for a while, but I got approached to do casting, I believe it was for the Vulcan League. They were looking for a caster for their qualifiers. I ended up taking that, got pretty good feedback on that. Got asked to do the top 40, the last call tournament rather, for ESL. Got a lot of good feedback on that. Asked me to do the Americas Championship, and now I'm here. So it's been really fun. I really enjoy casting. Allows me to sort of be a part of the action while not necessarily having the stress of playing on stage. But I'm hoping to maybe play here next year. I had my wedding conflicting with the qualifiers, and a little bit more important.
Casting's something you've wanted to do for a while, right, in Magic, and now you're finally getting that opportunity.
Well, I actually, in Magic, I actually did top 8 casts literally 15 years ago, like back before Twitch, when it was, their own live stream. I was one of the commentators for their top 8 broadcasts, and I, moved away from that when I sort of stepped down from playing competitive Magic for a while. And sort of got back into it, and yeah, I've been in the talks about possibly doing some commentary for Magic. It never really came to fruition, but now I'm here.
And looking at this event, obviously we're going to get some details on the 2016 World Championship before the end of the year. What would you like to see coming up next year?
What I'd like to see coming up next year is mostly just more different stuff. One of the things that I think is probably one of the contentious issues in Hearthstone right now that people feel is that a lot of games feel like they play out very similarly. A lot of decks feel like they're just kind of the same and have been for a while. And I'd like to see something to shake that up, whether it's alternate tournament formats, maybe more frequent changes to cards or more frequent releases, something like that.
How do you think the League of Explorers is going to affect the meta? Are you excited for it?
I think there's a lot of cool cards in there. It's difficult for there to be really metagame changing cards in a small set, or at least a lot of them. But there's a lot of cards in there that do look like they're going to potentially have a pretty big impact. I think the 1-drop for Shaman that gets buffed on Overload is kind of the Mana Worm style card that class may have needed. And then I actually think there's also some really interesting cards, like the Rogue cards that may push people in the direction of playing minion-based control style Rogue decks. And even the Priest cards look pretty cool. The one that deals damage to all creatures, then shuffles in your opponent's deck. Actually kind of a dead card if you shuffle it into an opponent's aggressive deck. And even the one that shuffles an opponent's minion into your deck, that's really, I think, a pretty powerful card for like a Control Priest style deck, which not only wants just hard removal for something like a Savannah Highmane, but also in control matchups is looking for more just threat density overall.
And taking in the whole of Blizzcon, obviously it's a huge event, thousands and thousands of people here, 4 World Championships for esports. How do you feel about the position of esports generally as someone who's involved in all these broadcasts? Do you think esports is going to have a great year in 2016?
I think it's doing nothing but growing. We've seen, not only with Hearthstone, but again, with Heroes, with other games like League of Legends, there's just been an explosion of the popularity of people wanting to watch games. And I think it really is something that is just going to continue to grow next year.
What do you think is the key to a successful Hearthstone esports tournament broadcast? Because we've seen lots of people try different things, people come and go, but obviously tournaments like this, there's like 150,000 people watching on Twitch and loads of people live. What makes a really great Hearthstone esports event?
You need to have great players. You want to have, or at least you need to have players who have compelling storylines. They don't necessarily have to be the best players, but there has to be some reason that people want to watch them. I think that events that, like for instance, the collegiate tournament. The collegiate tournament's cool because it has the camaraderie of the colleges and the players and the team element to it. I think ATLC was really popular for a similar reason. It was this unique thing that brought all these different characters and teams and rivalries together, and that was really cool. And of course, something like this, well, this is a world championship. It doesn't really need anything else going on.
And Osaka, congratulations.
The very beautiful Brian Kibler there with his take on the Hearthstone World Championships. What an event it was. over 150,000 people watching that huge stage as well, with the roaring fireplace and the tavern. It was pretty cool.
I really like that stage setup. That stage setup was just epic on so many levels.
Yeah, it was pretty great. And the Hearthstone World Championship was pretty great as well, as Kaka walking away with $100,000. Sorry if you were still waiting 6 or 7 days to watch the VODs for that and you've now been spoiled. Sorry, that's of course entirely my fault. But as Kaka, a worthy world champion, a guy who's been at this game for a long time. He's been long regarded by pros as one of the very best players. I mean, you had a chance to hang out with him. He's a really chill guy.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah, I mean, all the other pros think that I've always thought he's one of the best in the world, and now he's managed to prove it.
Those semi-final games.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, the Tice versus Ostkaka game, the Freeze Mage mirror match, was just incredible on such a high level.
Oh, I was just sitting in that crowd, like, hoping. Yeah.
Freeze Mage Mirror is such a fun game a fun match in Hearthstone to play, because it's one of the only matchups in Hearthstone where pretty much half the players in each of the players' decks completely useless. They're never going to be played for anything. So you see like Flame Strike on an empty board to kill no minions, Doomsayer just thrown out of hand because it's all about getting those spells together for the big combo. It was a pretty epic showdown between Tice and Ostkaka. Tice, a lot of people's favorite to take the whole tournament. He'd done very well through the group stage, won the European Championship, overcoming Ostkaka to do that. So it's a pretty cool tournament, a really great final as well. Second year in a row we've had a really deserved winner breaking through like that, like we had with Firebat last year. And as like Kibler said, I think it's going to be a big year for Hearthstone in 2016.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. It seems like everyone's getting a lot more hype now that there is this new expansion coming out, and hopefully a lot of the pros that have been a little bit iffy about staying in Hearthstone will decide to stay.
It was somewhat of a roller coaster for the other regions as well. Asia Pacific kind of surprised everyone in the group stage by getting 5 players through to the quarterfinals. All the North Americans dropped out as well. All the Americans, I should say, from the USA dropped out. They were left with 2 Canadians representing them in the quarterfinals, which was a little bit of a sore spot for some of our American colleagues. But APAC kind of collapsed in the quarterfinals, only Kuno getting through the semifinals. What a story for him, coming from the Japanese regionals to get all the way to the semifinals as well. But yeah, Ostkaka, $100,000 richer. Now the highest earning player in terms of prize money from 2016. It's not bad work if you can get it.
Oh, it's definitely not bad work at all. But, I mean, who knows what he's going to do with it? He said he might save it up. I think he was just a little bit overwhelmed after coming off that stage and having to answer interviews straight away.
Well, the problem is he's flown a Seat Story Cup this weekend, and if anyone knows Seat Story Cup and Take TV, they are famous for the poker games that go on at their tournaments, and players can lose thousands of dollars just on the poker table at Take TV Studios. So let's hope Ostkaka didn't take his prize money with him over to the Take TV house. But one of the big centerpieces of BlizzCon, Saira, was Heroes of the Storm, really taking center stage for the first time, really, that we've seen it. Obviously, last year it wasn't even officially out yet.
Yep.
I mean, you've been following Heroes of the Storm for a long time. How was it to see it in center stage?
It was really cool to see it center stage, and honestly, it was very similar to the America's Championship, the stage setup and everything, but it was really cool to have these big international teams like Na'Vi and Dignitas. They're competing against some of the teams that I've been following for the last, say, year. And the setup with all the casters and everything and the talent that they pulled in, I was very impressed with that.
It was a pretty dominant performance for Cloud9 in the finals. They proved themselves as the best team in not only Americas, but also in the world, beating Dignitas in that final. It was a bit of a stomp. Were you hoping for something a bit more classic?
I was, but at the same time, I was rooting for NA, so I was a little bit happy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sore spot for our EU colleagues.
Well, I mean, it's not.
The office.
Yeah, it's also for our British colleagues as well, because Dignitas is a primarily UK team. But they did really well. They overcame Na'Vi in the semi-final, avenged their European final loss. So I don't feel too bad for Bakery and the boys over at Dignitas and ADRD. They really came good, I think, and beating Team YL in the groups was no mean feat as well.
No, definitely.
So what happened to the Asian teams? That's my question, because after MGA, it looked like they would be, the dominant squads, like in League of Legends or some other MOBAs, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. I think Team DK got a little bit unlucky with being in the other group from Cloud9. If Team DK and then coming second in the group to Na'Vi, if DK had come up against Dignitas, for example, I think DK probably would have been in the final. For me, in many ways, Cloud9 versus DK was the match of the two best teams. I don't know about you, Saira.
I mean, I'm a Tempo Storm fan, so I was.
We're not going to talk about. Are we going to talk about that?
Yeah, we are.
Oh,
We're talking about it. It's happening.
Well, I mean, Temple Storm, of course, the once the kings of North America have had a precipitous decline, obviously racked with problems within the team, morale issues and performance issues as well, losing that America's Championship and then finishing bottom of the group with a loss to Braveheart, which wasn't even the full Braveheart team. They had to borrow players from another team to come over last minute. So the lineup hadn't even played together before, and they managed to beat the team that many people thought were going to walk this World Championships.
Yeah, it was very sad to see, honestly. I think the morale was quite low in going into that second game.
Yeah, I mean, they wasted no time in releasing a couple of players and trying to maybe address some of the issues they had. What are your hopes for Temple Storm in 2016? Do you think they can come good?
I think they can. I think they really need to sort out who they want to bring on, because that's going to be really important. For them as guys, it is really, really important that they bring in people that they can get along with, because they live in a team house together. They train together 24/7, and being in a city where most of them don't have family, they don't have anyone else that they can really hang out with outside of the house. So I think for them, definitely that's going to be priority one. That'll determine whether or not they do well in 2016.
Yeah, well, you want to talk about teams that were on top of the world in Heroes who have now kind of fallen off a cliff. Let's talk about Team Liquid, who didn't even make it to BlizzCon. We're expected to walk the European regionals. We're expected to be probably among the top 4 here at BlizzCon. Didn't even get out of their group, lost to Dignitas and Na'Vi. And they've already started making roster changes as well. Sam, it's silly season in Heroes of the Storm.
Well, this is what it's like in esports. I mean, if you want to look at silly season, go over to our League of Legends, and you can really see like what's going to happen if Heroes of the Storm gets big. I mean, I think it's kind of like par for the course, especially after we've had kind of like a lengthy roster lock for a lot of these teams, right? Because once they were qualified in, they had to get in. Obviously, for Team Liquid, that wasn't an issue, but for some of the other teams, it might have been. So they might have made changes sooner if they had an opportunity, I think, some of these teams.
Yeah, Sam mentions the League of Legends roster change, of course. If you're interested in that, you can stick around in the next hour for our League of Legends roster roundup. It's going to be an interesting show with everything that's going on there. But yeah, the roster locks did really mess up Temple Storm in particular. They talked about that publicly, that the roster lock was the real problem for them, that they had players they wanted to get rid of and just couldn't. So they were stuck with potentially toxic influences
for months
inside their team for months, that they, knowing they wanted to get rid of each other. That's going to be a pretty terrible environment, knowing that, the breakup should happen but can't.
Yeah. I think that was definitely a sore spot for them, and that's definitely something that Blizzard needs to look into going forward. Being roster locked from June up until November is a very, very long time.
Yeah, well, looking ahead to 2016 and the esports plans, they did announce the Heroes Global Circuit. So we got $1 $500,000 tournament this year. Well, maybe one's not enough. How about 3, Saira?
How about 4?
How about 4?
How about 4?
How about 5?
Well, I mean, 5 would be good, but let's
not
just
get carried
stick
away
with 4 for
Well,
now.
they did announce 3 majors for this global circuit, $500,000 each for spring, summer, and autumn, held all around the world, not just at BlizzCon. It's going to be 12 teams from 8 different regions. It's going to be an amazing circuit for Heroes of the Storm, but it's also a huge departure for Blizzard, who've primarily focused on their World Championships at BlizzCon.
Yeah. I think it's super hype, and I think it's something that needed to happen. When you think about the fact that all of these teams around the world are essentially just training 12 months of a year to compete at BlizzCon for this one tournament prize pool, having 3 different tournaments leading up to the World Championships is going to be huge in terms of prize money and stability in the scene.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know quite how the teams are going to break down yet, but I'd say they've mentioned 8 regions, so you'd expect 2 regions are going to get 4, so I think that's probably going to be like North America, Europe, China, and hopefully Korea this time, because that was something a lot of people were upset about this time. The MVP Black came second in the Korean regionals after winning MGA and didn't get to come through. Sam, what's your view on the global circuit and where Heroes Esports is going?
My view is that I can't wait till what they announce for Overwatch.
We're talking about Heroes now, Sam. Put the jacket down.
It's definitely exciting. I mean, I definitely think it's an improvement in terms of like what they offered competitively, and they've obviously shown that they want to support Heroes a lot, considering they had Heroes of the Dorm last year. They put it on ESPN, which was a first for esports as a whole. So I think they like where they're going with this. But sometimes I feel a little odd about this, because I feel like Here's the Storm maybe isn't as popular as I should be or could be, and it seems it makes me question like whether they can support this kind of thing. But I mean, if they're confident in it, I think it's great. So.
We saw, obviously, they've gone for a global circuit rather than something like the LCS, a league. I know our colleague Ian Barker has some pretty strong feelings on this subject. But what do you think, Saira? Do you think a circuit is better than a league?
I think it's a good starting point. I think this will be good to see how it works out. And if this works out, then great. And they can continue doing it. If not, then they have to look at what potentially other things they could do.
Sam, what do you reckon? What's your measure of success for this global circuit?
I mean, well, in terms of the league thing, I like the league format better because I like the storylines develop. But I think that this works in that regard too. I think that you want to see this develop more of a competitive scene. I think that's kind of like the goal. Like in the NA scene, there's been the top 2 teams for a while. And, Cloud9 said, that means that NA was the best scene or best region in the world. But other than that, it's like the teams have been a little unstable. There's not that many orgs supporting them. Even like the 3rd or 4th best teams are struggling to get support. So I think that's going to change just because Blizzard is throwing this money there. But does that mean that there's not enough demand for that, competition in NA? So I think that we want to see, whether this can kind of help grow those scenes and actually like build something bigger than just the Blizzard circuit. Yeah,
that's the key, particularly looking at North America. We need some more money in the scene. We need sustainability. Teams like Mueller Geniuses, who are probably like the 4th best team, top 5 team in NA, they can't even get a sponsor. They're trying so hard. Cognitive are currently looking for a new sponsor, and that's Cognitive, not exactly the biggest esports franchise in the world, and they've had the 3rd best team in NA
for a while now. Yeah.
Do you think?
And complexity.
Yeah, and complexity, of course. Yeah, they're in that top 5 as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, we definitely need more investment in the NA scene, and that's what this global circuit can bring.
I mean, I'm still rooting for Team Oz, so I know Immunity is disbanded, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Who's left? Is that Team Immunity? Was it?
Team Immunity was Team Oz.
Do you have any other esports teams in Australia?
No, I know that some of the Immunity team members are actually looking at starting a new team, so hopefully we will have a new Team Oz to cheer for very soon.
So you just got the one team in Australia, just to be clear. You don't have any...
From of what I know of, yes.
I see. Well, maybe they need to work on that, because they're going to have a New Zealand and Australia qualifier for the circuit. If that's just Immunity playing against themselves, that doesn't seem really fair to me. If that's the case, I want a Scottish qualifier. That's what I want. I want to get my friends together, we can have pickup games, and then get into the global circuit. Let's just play against like our pets or something and qualify. I think that's a fair way to do it.
I mean, what I'm actually super hyped for is Arena. That's...
Really?
Yes.
You're hyped for Arena?
I am really hyped for Arena. Why are you not hyped for Arena, Sam?
Who's going to play it? Like, why do you want to split up the queue in a game that already kind of has maybe matchmaking problems, in part because you want a bigger player base playing in it? Like, it just seems like it's just, I don't know. It just seems weird. It's not going to be like a competitive game mode, most likely. It's not going to be supported for that. Everyone's just going to be playing the normal queue, I think. Like,
yeah, I mean, if I'm a hardcore Heroes of the Storm fan, I look at that Battlegrounds panel they did on the Saturday at BlizzCon. I look at all the work that they've put into Arena and just think, why are you not putting that work into the rest of the game that still needs fixed or still needs work done? It just seems like it might be fun once or twice, and maybe I'll play it casually. But for people who want to take it seriously, it's basically a non-entity.
Yeah, but I think it is aimed towards those casual players. Like, who doesn't want to see 5 Illidan's going up against 5 Murkies?
But Heroes is already the casual mobile.
Lots of people.
I mean, debatable, but...
Well, so, I mean, in like League, they have all these game modes like Dominion and stuff. Like, they're probably not very popular. They introduce these new ones sometimes, and it's just like, well, it's kind of like a gimmick that lasts. It's obviously they don't want it to be a gimmick, but maybe it can kind of be like the ARAM mode for Heroes of the Storm or something. All random, all mid. That's a pretty popular game mode that people play kind of casually when they just want to kind of like shoot around and move their character around mechanically, but not have to think about the game as a whole. So I think Arena can maybe fill that niche, but it also seems like something that they don't need to have done at this point in time, especially with how much effort they put into it. I mean, obviously it looks great. I think neither Callum or I will deny that. Like, it looks like they've done a great job with this, but it just doesn't seem like something they need.
Well, something they have worked on is a new map, Towers of Doom, which is out on the PTR today. You and I actually played some earlier on. It's the great thing about our job is that you can sit there and the boss walks in and sees you playing games. It's research for the show. We had to do it. We had to do it. But we queued up. It was a little bit different. I'm not sure if I like Towers of Doom.
I'm interested to see how it affects competitive play. That's my biggest thing. Not being able to attack the core directly and having all of these really weird sort of objectives plus the merc camps plus the boss that doesn't actually push down a lane is going to be completely different for competitive play, and it'll be interesting to see how players draft around that.
Yeah, we had a little play with it at BlizzCon. Sam, what did you make of the map? It's very weird.
I feel like it sucks.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I agree. I just think it's there's too many objectives.
It was overwhelming. Yeah. It was very overwhelming.
It doesn't feel like you're rewarded when you take their fort, especially when they can just capture it back. And I feel like in competitive games, what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of rotations where one team just rotates around capturing things, the other team like captures them back, and there's no nexus or push where you're like pushing the keep to be like, okay, we need to have a fight to defend this. Like, I mean, obviously there's the objectives to cap and stuff where I guess it shoots cannonballs depending on how many towns you have or something.
Yeah, the problem is, well, like,
it just doesn't seem like there's enough to, like, I don't know, force fights like there might be in most of the other maps.
You're sometimes punished for engaging in fights as well, because the tag time on those the altars is so low that if you chase the team and win the team fight, maybe even just like a little bit away from the actual objective, one of them can backdoor the objective really easily, and that's a really frustrating mechanic, right? Players are going to rage about that when it comes out. It's the sort of thing that is just gonna piss people off.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And we'll have to see. You know, we've only played it. I only played it like a couple minutes with some bots, but so who knows? We'll see.
Those bots were terrible.
You still died to them, though.
Hey! We were playing cho'gall. We both died to them. We both died to them. We win together, we lose together on cho'gall, Sam. We had this conversation. Well, I mentioned cho'gall. We have
You've
to go
mentioned
there.
cho'gall.
Cho'gall, the big announcement that people were looking for from BlizzCon for Heroes of the Storm. People were pretty hyped about it, and we found out just how excited they were when we were there.
Prepare for trouble. Make it double.
All right, so what do you guys think about cho'gall?
Awesome, amazing. Players playing one hero, I was like, has that ever been done before?
No.
Like, how does that work?
I feel like this is the most unique hero that I think anyone has ever done in a MOBA before.
Whole lot of fun.
Extra OP.
Gonna be bananas.
Worst hero ever.
What do you guys think about cho'gall?
We became friends through World of Warcraft, I don't even know how many years ago. And as soon as we saw cho'gall, I wrapped my arm around this guy and I went, this is our hero.
It's gonna be, it will crack the bromance. It might be really frustrating for the player who's riding the turret, so it'll be really interesting to see how they address that moving forward.
And which of you is going to be the Cho and who's going to be the Gall?
I think I'm going to be a Gall. I like being the spellcaster.
I like to be the warrior, so probably I'll be the Cho. Yeah.
You know what? I'm a bit of a spellcaster usually. I think I'm going to take Gall.
I want a Gall.
Which one of you is going to be Cho and who's going to be Gall?
I'm totally going to be Cho if I have anything to say about it.
All right, I'll take the Gall bullet. Why not?
Let's do it.
I play every warrior in the game, so I'm our Cho.
We haven't decided yet. Maybe we'll flip a coin.
Obviously, there's 3 of you rather than 2. But what are you going to be, a Cho or a Gall?
Definitely a Cho.
You know, I got to get that Cho, man.
I kind of feel in the Gall.
Okay, so you're never working out. This guy, we don't need this guy right here.
We got Cho Gall.
cho'gall. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I've no idea if it's going to be competitively viable, but I just can't wait for the hilarity that's going to ensue. I did play a couple of games of cho'gall at BlizzCon. I know you're playing as 2 heroes, but the feeling you get when you go in just as cho'gall against 3 other heroes, like there was one game we were playing where we saw 3 of the heroes on the other team. Obviously they're bots, so you can't really judge, but like they were taking a merc camp, so we went in as cho'gall and just cleared them all out, cleared out the mercs, took the camp, soloed it. It was it was awesome.
So do you think he is a lot stronger than any other character that's been in the game so far?
Well, I mean, yeah, he has to be, right? It has to be scaled in that way because they're playing because it's 2 people playing the one hero. It has to be.
But is he too OP?
I don't know. It's kind of really difficult to tell, and I kind of feel a little bit sorry for Blizzard in the balancing of this because it's going to be impossible to balance until they get it out for testing, right, Sam?
It'll be pretty tough to balance, probably. I mean, I feel like he might end up just being like a complete gimmick character that's, you know, kind of fun to mess around with, but talking competitive games. But I mean, they've managed to do it with a lot of the other characters. I mean, we've seen this guy floating around in all sorts of games, and he's kind of like a different hero than anything else in any other MOBA, and they managed to make that work. So I think that they can do it, but it's kind of tough because in heroes, like having a body in a lane is very important. Abathur is able to be in 2 lanes at once, basically, even with his global presence. So it's a bit different than cho'gall, who can only be in one place at a time, which, is sometimes nice when, you're the one in control moving around and you can make sure Callum doesn't go feed off by himself. But a lot of the rest of the time, it makes it very difficult to, make a team comp that works. So,
check out that nipple spike as well, guys, on that skin. That's pretty impressive. That's some serious hardware cho'gall's rocking there. Yeah, you are right, and we've seen heroes like the Lost Vikings as well, which was announced at last year's BlizzCon, which is 3 heroes controlled by 1 player, which, like you say, does give you that extra soaking potential, but it's a totally different way to play the game. It's basically a way to get ex-pro Starcraft players to play heroes, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was their little push there to try and get people from their other titles into heroes.
What do you think, Si? Do you think cho'gall is going to be competitively viable? This is an interesting question. Which pro team do you think will have the best cho'gall?
Ooh, I think hands down, it's going to be Cloud9. They're going to get that cho'gall down.
Who's going to play the cho?
It's going to be, I would say, probably King Caffeine and maybe Fan.
Yeah, I was thinking Fan.
I think Fan, yeah. King Caff and Fan. And those two together, I think, will just dominate everyone else.
They're quite the double act. You can actually see them in a video on our YouTube channel doing a little double act after winning the World Championship. You got a great interview with those guys. We don't have time to show you, unfortunately, tonight. We can check that out on our YouTube channel.
Yes.
But cho'gall not the only hero that was announced, although it is the most hyped one.
Yes.
We did also get Lunara and Greymane. Sam, what did you think of those two?
I didn't really get to touch them too much. Lunara, I have no idea who Lunara is. They just made up a character, I guess, because I wanted a dryad. Which is cool, whatever. It's kind of interesting. She has like vision and stuff, which is different than a lot of other heroes. So that'll be interesting to see like how effective that is. Because that's something that's kind of missing from the game in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, Tassadar and Tyrande and all these others have a couple abilities like that, but hers seems it's like a little more permanent in some ways. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like how she plays out. I think Greymane is more exciting. I'm a little more excited for him, I think, than I am for cho'gall. He seems like he could be pretty fun and interesting and make a lot of interesting kind of plays.
Yeah, he's kind of the same kind of idea, right? He's totally breaking the kind of system of the game. He has 2 characters in one. He's got the long range and then the short range. That's pretty hype.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one, Sam. I am hyped for Greymane most out of everyone, and so were the Cloud9 boys. So maybe they won't even go for the cho'gall picks.
Whoever picks the cho'gall first in competitive play is going to go down in legend. Like
you can't pick it first.
You can't pick it first.
Yeah,
that is true.
Whoever is the first to pick it in a competitive match, in overall competitive matches, smart ass is what I meant.
I think that's one of the interesting things about him is that if he is a power pick, you can't actually first pick him. So that kind of changes up the way the draft works and how pick ban works.
Bans,
where you might have to ban a power pick differently, like on one side. So that'll be interesting to see if that ever comes to happen. So
you can also ban one and ban both. That's how it works. So if you ban Cho or Gall, they're both banned.
Yes.
So you can't play. You can't like ban one and then you pick the other one and somehow the other one gets unlocked and you can play him again and get around the ban. That's not how it works. It is. We were talking about this on Friday, Sam, when we were hanging out. It's kind of weird that they've released this one character who is being released in quite a gimmicky way with the kind of sharing with players who were at BlizzCon is how you get it. You can't buy cho'gall, and they're kind of breaking fundamentally the way that drafting works in a lot of ways for one hero.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but I mean, they've shown that they're willing to do creative designs, in MOBAs before, like with Abathur and a little bit with Lost Vikings. I mean, Dota has some similar mechanics to that, like with, Meepo is able to like spawn a bunch of clones and have a bunch of micro to control them. But it's interesting. They've shown that they're willing to, really like push the boundaries. And so far they've shown that they're good enough to design and make that work. So, I think it's fun.
I did get a chance to play Lunara as well. And, we haven't heard anything about release dates. Of course, patch came out today with no new heroes. We were thinking maybe we might get cho'gall. We didn't get them, unfortunately.
They said by the end of the month. So for those of us that were at BlizzCon or had the virtual ticket, we will have cho'gall by the end of the month.
I'm excited. But I did get a chance to play with Lunara, and I have to say, I'm not sure she's going to come anytime soon because the movement, her movement is very different from the movement of normal heroes. She bounds, and she has a permanent 20% movement advantage rather than being able to mount. She can't mount at all. But that movement was really kind of buggy, the way that just like worked graphically. So I'm not sure it was anywhere close to a finished build at BlizzCon. So it could be a little while before we see these 3 characters, but we got a lot to look forward to in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we can't close out the show and talk about BlizzCon without talking about one of the most epic Blizzard World Championship finals that has ever been seen. The Starcraft WCS final between SOAS and Life went to Game 7. No person had ever won BlizzCon twice before in StarCraft, and then the 2014 and 2013 champion found their way to the 2015 final, competing for that accolade, and it was SOS who took it. Sam, you know a bit more about StarCraft than I do. This was an epic final even for me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, way back when StarCraft was released, it had this reputation for having all these poor finals. There'd be bad results, you know, there wouldn't be close matches or good games, but this one kind of blew everything out of the water. I think it's fair to say it probably was the best WCS final, like, probably ever in any game, you know, that Blizzard's hosted. It was extremely close. A lot of the matches were extremely exciting. I think it was it the Game 6 where, you know, Life did an early push and SOS, like, held on and managed to come back and win. It was like, it was a great series overall, and it was a great final. And it was also a final between basically, you know, two guys who kind of established themselves as the two best players in Heart of the Swarm. SOS won in 2013 WCS, and then Life won last year. So it was kind of a clash of the Titans, and, you know, it really lived up to the hype and expectations with a 7-game series. And Protoss won right before Legacy of the Void, so, you know, there you go.
Yeah, they couldn't have written it better.
They couldn't have written it better. It was almost like a play-by-play of the lead-up to Legacy of the Void.
Absolutely. But that final, I mean, I say I'm not a big StarCraft fan, but I was so into watching that. It was so cool. The stadium, the setup they had with that stage was just so epic. And Legacy of the Void comes out, is already out. Players are getting into that. Are you gonna check out Legacy of the Void?
I was actually in the beta, so I've actually been playing it for a little while.
Cool. Sam's in the Overwatch beta. You're in the Legacy of the Void beta. What can I get here? Blizzard, please.
Blizzard, please.
Please. Anyway.
But I think for me, Archon mode is a lot of fun. I played with the devs. I was terrible, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're running out of time a little bit, Sam, but what do you make of Archon mode? Do you think 2v2 StarCraft could be the next big esport?
I mean, they've already had Archon mode tournaments, like with Red Bull Battlegrounds. It was actually a lot of fun. Like, you can kind of really increase, like, the level of play in a StarCraft match when you have two people able to micro and control units, one micro, one macro. I don't know, there's tons of different ways you could write it up. And I think it also adds, like, a bit more of a human element where, you know, a lot of these StarCraft players are these Korean robots who, you know, don't show very much emotion. But when you have two of them interacting together, you know, making plays together, teamwork together, camaraderie, it's a lot more exciting, I think. So I hope that it might become a thing, but I'm not sure it will because, you know, 1v1 is really entrenched, and there is something great about, like, the whole one-on-one, you know, macho aspect, like just me against you, pitting ourselves against each other, especially in a game like StarCraft. So we'll see. I think there'll definitely be some events for it, though, but maybe it won't be the main event.
Well, we did have to wrap up. Didn't want to leave without hitting this bombshell on you, Saira. I found out something really crazy at BlizzCon.
Okay.
I couldn't believe it when I heard it, and I don't know if the viewers at home are going to believe it as well. Did you know that people still play World of Warcraft competitively? Do you know that was still it's still a thing?
That's still a thing.
I didn't know.
Team?
So congratulations to
Hello,
SK Gaming for winning that esport that I didn't even know still existed. Clearly,
I haven't played Arena in probably about 5 years.
So have most people in the world. Same with most people haven't played.
They added third-party tournament support in WoD. You know, they're doing things that they haven't done since ever for WoW PvP. So, you know, maybe it'll be on the upswing.
Or maybe not. Well, that's all we have time for in the BlizzCon recap show. Of course, as I said earlier, coming up is going to be the League of Legends show. Jared Wynn's going to be here with Impaler to talk about all the roster craziness in League of Legends.
Yes.
Things are going down
on
there. I mean, I hope our scene hots up to the point where we have teams threatening to sue each other. That's the pinnacle. That's when you know you've arrived as an esport.
I don't know about that, Callum, but
we'll find out. Sam, any final thoughts on BlizzCon?
I'm happy.
Bringing the hype there right at the end of the show. Sam Lingle, thank you for joining us. Saira, any final thoughts from you?
No, I'm good. I think we've covered everything that I wanted to talk about.
It's a great event though, right? BlizzCon, I mean, overall, I think that would be something to put out there. It's like, if you think maybe it looks a bit weird, all these nerds getting together, all the cosplay and stuff, it looks maybe weird on stream, but it's an awesome atmosphere.
Yeah. Only thing I will say, Blizzard, please, 3 days next year.
Yeah, 3 days next year.
3 days.
You can check out more BlizzCon coverage over at daily.esports. We've got some written coverage, some interviews coming out over the next week. But that's all we've got time for. Thank you very much for watching the show. Stick with us for League of Legends.
Thanks.